Thank you. Thanks so much. I don't know what to say after all that, folks, seriously.
Get your paper.
My name's Charmy Golson. I'm half owner and editor of the Midwest Cultivator. I own your medical marijuana trade journal, and I'm here to make you a promise that when you see the October issue, I will not be printing press releases from the police.
Thank you.
I will be doing original investigative journalism. And when you look at the front cover and you see this very typical situation of Ed Boyke in Saginaw, who was an asset forfeiture victim, you will note that I do not discuss whether or not this individual is supposedly over his plant count. You will note that I talk about how the Saginaw County Police that came into his house handcuffed him to a table and taunted him about who he voted for in the last presidential election. I can do that. It's my paper. And I started this paper because I'm sick to death of the media being in bed with law enforcement and printing everything that they give them. I'm tired. I cannot tell you how tired I am as a member of the journal of the media of reading things like I read in the Oakland press last week. We know that Sheriff Bouchard narcotics team wasn't gentle with these people. But they knew what they were doing was wrong. I don't care whether or not they were operating in or out of the constructs of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. That is not the point. The point is that when I interviewed the sheriff of Lapeer County 2 days after the Oakland County raids, because they had gone into the Dryden Compassion Center and had the folks stand up and taken out their, everything from their pockets and raided that compassion center. When I called the sheriff of Lapeer County, he said to me, I gave those folks their money back. And I want you to know, young lady, called me young lady, which I really liked. He also told me I talk too much and I should listen more, which is probably true. But he said, when someone calls me and tells me that there's folks growing marijuana, I send one of my deputy sheriffs out and they knock on the door and say, are you growing medical marijuana? That is the same response to somebody turning in their neighbor to the snitch program, which is born out of the drug war, which, let me tell you, is the reason that we're standing out here shouting to the heavens with our fists raised and trying to get the people who are supposed to be protecting and serving us to behave in a sane manner. The other reason I own this newspaper, the other reason I own this newspaper is because I have worked for the past 5 years with an organization of law enforcers who want to end the drug war. It's called LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I call these guys recovering cops. I love them. They speak the truth about the drug war. Please go to their website, copssaylegalizedrugs.com. And I'll tell you what, when I started running their op-ed project in 2005, I was calling up editors across the country and saying, I got a cop who says the drug war is a failed public policy. And every editor that I talked to in the country said, uh-huh. They knew. They knew that we've spent almost $2 trillion in 40 years and not one of the single goals of the drug war has been reached. Not one of them. Drugs are everywhere. The drug war is a failed public policy. How do we get from that to a knock on the door? Excuse me, sir, are you growing marijuana? How do we get there? We do. And I'm going to tell you how. These cops that I work for, they formed a speakers bureau and they started going and talking to white middle-class America, Kiwanis clubs, Catholic organizations, Rotary clubs. And they listened to them because they're white men, because they're cops. And when you look at the figures, you can't argue with it. You just can't argue with it. But we've been brainwashed. You have been brainwashed. I have been brainwashed. These folks that are at work today have been brainwashed into believing that we are the enemy. This isn't a war on drugs. If it was, we would legalize and regulate and control drugs. This is a war on people. This is a war on Americans. You gotta have an enemy. You have to have an enemy to have a war. You absolutely have to. And so when I read in the newspaper that, these cops may not have been gentle with these people, all that is naming the enemy, and it's us. Chuck is absolutely right. You can't fire somebody because they're black anymore. Not legally. The civil rights movement was effective. I believe ending the drug war is every bit as important as the civil rights movement. Because as a woman, As a woman, you can't fire me anymore because I'm a woman. As an American Indian person, you can't tell me I can't go into a bathroom because I'm Indian. But you can come into my house with masks and guns and put guns to my children's heads and shoot my dogs and take everything and never have to charge me with a crime if I might be in possession of an illegal substance. Prohibition doesn't work anymore. It turns people against each other. It turns the police against us. They no longer live and work in the area. There's no such thing as community policing in Oakland County, because when your kid plays softball with the guy's kid that you pulled over, that's a whole different relationship. And that's what they're doing in Lapeer County. Listen to me. In Lapeer County, Randy, the owner of the Compassion Club, said to me, I gotta tell you, these folks were respectful when they came into my club. I've lived here my whole life. They have a relationship with those law enforcers. And that's what we have to do as well. You got to stand up and scream. You got to get lawyers and sue them. You got to know how to act if they come to the door. And you've got to talk to your legislators. And you got to go into the city council rooms and be ambassadorial. If you shout at them and tell them, we know our rights, motherfuckers, we know you can't do this to us, they're going to look at you like you're a criminal. I know you don't want to hear this, but I've got to tell you. You have to be an ambassador. You have to be able to give them facts and speak to them, because you may be the first person they've ever seen that says, I'm a medical marijuana patient.
Educate.
You got to educate them.
Don't hesitate to educate. Don't hesitate.
And you got to speak the truth. I was in an Ypsi City Zoning Commission meeting with Jamie Lowell, the owner of the Third Seed Coast Compassion Center, when those raids went down in the middle of August. Our phones were blowing up. People were calling. People were traumatized. We were like, what the heck is going on? When we got out, we found out. We talked to people. You know, I made a mistake. I live in Ann Arbor. I spoke at Hash Bash I'd never been to Hash Bash, but I spoke at Hash Bash for the first time with my newspaper. And I told 5,000 people, if you get raided, call me. That's only proof that I need a handler to walk with me and tell me what I can and cannot say. Because they call me, and they are traumatized. They have been victimized, and they don't know what to do, and they're afraid. And that is why I'm standing here in front of you, and that is why I own that newspaper, and that is why, after these raids, I went into my library of information, and I started nosing around, and you know what I found out? Oakland County is one of 4 counties in the state of Michigan that does not participate in multi-jurisdictional drug raids. Go look at the map. They're a little white county. They're not colored. They're not part of any other DEA or multi-jurisdictional drug task forces. What does that mean? It means when they come into your house and they take your kid's piggy bank and they take your car and they take whatever they want to because of our egregious asset forfeiture laws, that they don't share it with the federal government. And they brought in the second largest reporting of asset forfeiture in 2006. $4.5 million. $4.5 million of your dollars. And they're going to tell everybody that they're keeping society safe by doing this. They're not. All law enforcement budgets are now reliant on narcotics enforcement. They're utterly reliant on it. Prior to the drug war, they used tax money. Not today. Not today. And I'm going to remember, I'm looking at all of your faces because I know there's 800 people out there, 1,800 people out there, 2,800 people out there who can't be here with us today, who are not going to stand up and hold signs. And when I come to you in 2 years and I say, hey, remember me? I got a signature drive I want you to help me with.